Welcome to the deep dive. Recently, the world was really holding its breath as India and Pakistan, two nuclear powers, came incredibly close to a major conflict in 2025.
Right. Before that, fragile ceasefire finally took hold.
Exactly. So today, we're going to try and dissect this whole tense period. We'll look at this sequence of events, the deeper issues driving it, and what it all really means.
Our goal is basically to cut through the noise, understand what really happened, drawing on, the various reports and analyses that have come out.
This recent crisis is just such a stark reminder of how volatile things are over there.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, the fact that you have two nuclear states engaging in direct military action, even limited action, it highlights the massive risk of things escalating, doesn't it?
It really does. And the immediate trigger, as I think most people remember, was that awful terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Kashmir, back on April 22nd, 2025.
26 civilians killed. Just terrible.
And India, well, they immediately and very publicly blamed Pakistan-backed groups. They specifically named Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed.
And Pakistan, well, denied any involvement, as you'd expect.
But that attack, that horrific act, it was really the spark, wasn't it? It just set off this incredibly dangerous chain reaction.
Yeah, but it's so important to understand. This didn't just come out of nowhere, right?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
You've got decades of history, these unresolved territorial issues, so much mutual suspicion. That's the tinderbox.
Yeah.
The Pahalgam attack was just the match.
That's a good way to put it. And what's really striking is how fast things went downhill diplomatically after the attack. That really paved the way for the military stuff. India didn't just condemn it. They rolled out some pretty serious diplomatic hits. They moved to suspend the Indus Waters Treaty. And for you listening, this treaty is absolutely critical. It governs how they share vital river water.
A huge deal.
Yeah.
Suspending that treaty was a highly escalatory move. Sources suggest it wasn't just condemnation, it seriously questioned long-term water security.
Exactly, with huge impacts on agriculture, people's livelihoods.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Far-reaching consequences, really.
And on top of that, India also expelled Pakistani diplomats, cut off all bilateral trade. These weren't small things.
Not at all. And Pakistan hit back. They closed their airspace, big implications for civilian flights, obviously, and maybe even more symbolically, suspended the Shimla Agreement.
Right. The Shimla Agreement, which has been, well, kind of the bedrock, however shaky, for their bilateral relations for ages.
So even before a shot was fired, you saw this rapid tit-for-tat diplomatic breakdown.
Yeah, it felt like the guardrails were just coming off completely.
It really signaled a hardening on both sides, didn't it? Less room for talking, more preparation for, confrontation.
And then, May 7th, that's when things got really dangerous. India launched Operation Sindoor.
Military strikes.
Yeah, targeting what India claimed were militant camps in Pakistan-administered Kashmir and also in Punjab.
And reports mentioned pretty advanced weapons being used, right? Rafale jets, BrahMos missiles.
Yes, but immediately you got these clashing stories. Pakistan claimed civilian areas were hit. Even a mosque reported civilian deaths.
While India insisted, no, we only hit terrorist infrastructure. We were going after the groups behind the Pahalgam attack.
It just shows how hard it is to know what's actually happening in the fog of war,
Absolutely. And Pakistan didn't just sit back. They responded militarily with Operation Bunyan-un-Marsoos, targeting Indian military sites, apparently.
But here's where it got, kind of different this time. There was this major drone battle.
That was unprecedented, wasn't it? Reports of hundreds of loitering munitions intercepted.
Exactly. And for you listening, think of these like drones that can just hang around in the air waiting for a target. Using them on this scale, it just adds this whole new complex layer to the conflict.
It really does. Drones, these loitering munitions, they change the dynamics. You can deploy them fast, maybe with less risk than manned planes, but like you said, it also makes de-escalation harder.
And raises worries about hitting the wrong thing, right? Because tracking them, verifying targets, it's tricky.
Definitely. And then you have the claims about military losses. Highly contested, as always.
Pakistan said they shot down 5 Indian jets, including some advanced Rafales.
And interestingly, that claim got some partial backup from French intelligence sources, which makes you pause.
It does. India, meanwhile, total silence on any jet losses. They just kept saying their strikes were measured and non-escalatory.
Okay, let's unpack this. This huge difference in reported losses, plus that partial third-party confirmation. It really makes you wonder about the actual impact, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And it just highlights the information war that goes hand in hand with the fighting.
Oh, totally. Both sides want to control the narrative
Yeah.
for people at home and internationally. Pakistan's claim, especially with that bit of external validation, was likely about projecting strength.
And India's silence could be trying not to escalate further, or maybe just managing how it looked domestically.
Could be either or both.
But shifting focus a bit, because beyond the military tactics and the tech, there's the human cost, which is always devastating.
Always.
Pakistan reported 51 deaths total. That included 11 soldiers, but also, tragically, children. India acknowledged 21 civilian deaths on their side, plus 5 soldiers killed.
And both sides accused the other of hitting non-combatants.
Which is just deeply disturbing in any conflict.
And while these are the numbers reported initially, the true human cost, it's often much higher, takes time to really understand. The immediate aftermath is, well, it's chaotic.
Yeah, but the suffering for families, for communities on both sides, that's undeniable.
Absolutely.
And the reactions at home in India and Pakistan, they were really quite different.
Yeah, that was interesting.
In Pakistan, reports talked about this big surge in military popularity, which seems almost strange, right, given the anti-army protests only 2 years before.
It is paradoxical. But after this clash, reports of flag-waving, people praising General Asim Munir.
And that Gallup poll showing 96% of Pakistanis felt they'd won. Incredible.
What's fascinating here is that swing in public mood. It's that classic rally around the flag effect you often see in conflict.
Right. National unity surges, support for the government, the military goes up, even if there were problems before.
Exactly. It's a powerful psychological thing, though often, temporary.
Over in India, though, the pressures were different. Prime Minister Modi was getting heat from hardliners, wanting a really decisive response to that initial attack. But he was also dealing with, well, looming elections, a potentially shaky economy. Going too big militarily could have really risked India's wider ambitions globally and regionally.
So it was a balancing act. Strong desire for action, but also big strategic and domestic constraints.
That really sums it up. Leaders have to weigh that public demand for toughness against the bigger picture, escalation risks, economic fallout, all of it.
It's an incredibly difficult position.
So after those intense 4 days, we got the ceasefire, brokered on May 10th.
And notably, not just a regional thing. High-level U.S. involvement was key, wasn't it?
Yeah, reports highlighted U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio mediating hotline talks between military commanders.
That level of U.S. engagement really shows how worried the international community was about this specific flare-up.
Because of the nuclear angle.
Exactly. With 2 nuclear powers involved, the risk of it spiraling was a huge global concern.
Okay, so the fighting stopped. But the big question now is, but will it hold?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because analysts are warning that rally around the flag thing we talked about, it probably won't last. The core issues that fuel this conflict, they haven't gone anywhere.
No, they haven't. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the fundamental root causes, especially Kashmir, that whole dispute and the issue of cross-border militancy, they're completely unresolved.
Right. A ceasefire just pauses the fighting. It doesn't fix the underlying problem.
Precisely. And look at the internal situations. Pakistan might have a boost in military support for now, but they're still facing a major economic crisis, plus unrest in places like Balochistan.
And India still has the unresolved Kashmir tensions, ongoing militancy to deal with.
So the ceasefire, it's happening against a backdrop of pretty significant instability in both countries.
Which brings us back to that really sobering thought. Can 2 nuclear-armed nations really afford another slip-up like this?
It's terrifying to think about. As one expert put it, this crisis is as unpredictable as it is dangerous.
That just sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? It really sums up how precarious things are.
The risk of miscalculation, of misreading something, of accidental escalation, it's just alarmingly high.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on the 2025 clash and this fragile ceasefire, what are the main takeaways? What have we learned?
Well, one big one seems to be that diplomatic breakdowns matter. A lot.
Yeah, the speed at which things like the Indus Waters Treaty suspension, even travel bans, seem to push things towards conflict faster than any military moves initially.
It really highlights how vital those communication channels and agreements are. Even when things are tense, letting them erode can have fast, serious consequences.
And another huge factor, the social media war.
Oh, definitely. Both sides were heavily pushing their own narratives, conflicting claims on casualties, on victories. It's a key part of modern conflict now. The information space is just as important as the physical battlefield these days. Shaping public opinion domestically and globally, it's a major goal.
And finally, the U.S. role seemed a bit different this time.
More proactive, maybe, compared to some past crises.
Exactly. Getting the VP and Secretary of State directly involved in mediating, that felt like a more hands-on approach from Washington.
It likely shows they understood the immense risks this time, felt a real urgency to de-escalate before it got totally out of control, with potentially devastating results for everyone.
So for now, there's quiet, a fragile quiet. But as we know from South Asian history, peace can often just be, well, the calm before the next storm.
It's an unsettling reality.
And considering how incredibly quickly things escalated this time, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are the long-term implications for stability when those traditional diplomatic channels just seem to crumble so fast?
That's a crucial question to keep asking.
Something for all of us to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.